In this little video I will show you how I modify an old router so it will have a simple lift, and I want to mount it in my side table on my table saw. And the first thing I do here is unmounting or get rid of some of the parts I don't need anymore. I don't want to make a kind of jig for the router lift. I just want to modify this router directly and try to mount a lead thread, the rod directly here. So I need to drill a hole. I'll show that in a minute. But in the first place, all unnecessary parts was removed. And it's this kind of threaded rod here I want to use. And I just want to drill a hole, and here the hole will probably be in this area, so it should be possible. The first thing here is to mark up where I want to drill the hole. So I use a drill bit as a template. And as you can see here, it's a little offset, but it should be okay. And then I use this thread here as kind of a guide to figure out where to drill the hole. And here I mark up the center for the hole. And first here I drill a pilot hole. It's a 6mm drill. I don't think it's a good idea to start with the big drill bit. So after a while, as you can see, I proceed to drill the hole, and after I finish the pilot hole, I just use my 10mm drill bit to make the final hole. Here you can see it's a little offset. So here I have to compensate later in the little adapter I want to create. The adapter I need to be created here. I have to figure out how to do that. And my initial idea was to use the top of a bolt or the rest of the bolt. So I cut the length on this. And here you can see before I cut it, the idea is to use this little threaded handle to fix the little adapter I'll create in a moment. And this little adapter is of course also going to be drilled. And I drill a pilot hole here first, and then I use a drill so I can create my M8 thread later. And here you have the side hole. So, and this is the kind of fixating hole to keep it in place. And the fixating hole is working like this. And you have this little threaded handle here, and then you just screw it down into the adapter. And now you can see the adapter is fixed and it can only go sideways. And then the adapter, as you also can see, I had to compensate a little so it is offset. And of course it needs some thread, so I can get my threaded rod in here. And here this is a test to see if the thread was okay, and yeah, it works perfect. So next step is to mount it and try to see how it works, checking the clearance to see that everything is aligned. And as you can see here, it seems to work pretty well. So next step is to make a kind of head where I can get a grip so I can rotate this thread. Initially I was thinking of an Allen screw or umbrago, but I didn't have any in my shop that day, so I just had to go for this. I welded, and after I have welded, I made a quick test to see if the whole idea was good or not. And as you can see here, it actually works pretty well. So I'm happy with the result for now, so I think I will just continue as it is. And then I kind of needed a little brushing, a little support here, so the thread was not going to be, you can say, grubbing or rubbing off the side. So This is how it looks like when it was mounted, and how it looks like when you have also the washer. I need the washer because it was a very large hole. And here I had to drill an extra hole, and the reason is I drilled this hole is that I needed 4 holes to mount the hole router to the side table. My initial thought was to use these small bolts here, but since they are small and they do not have a big head, and I want to use MDF plate to my side table, I decided to use these holes instead. And some time ago I took out the spring in the router, so this I had to reinstall again. And here is where I want to have the router, and it will probably be in the place here in this area. So first thing is to cut the MDF. I use 12mm. I was thinking that should be enough, so just took a couple of cuts, and then I made a quick check to see that I have measured correctly, and it seems to be okay. So next step is to unmount the side table itself. It consists of 2 pieces of table here, or what you call it. So there are 4 screws in both sides. So after unscrewing this and taking off the side table, I just make a quick check again to see that everything fits okay. And then I needed to figure out the height, so the surface of the plate will be aligned with the rest of the table saw. So now I need to make some pieces of wood, and I have this planer and thicknesser, so it only took me a couple of minutes, as you can see here, 5 minutes maybe. And when you have a machine like this, it's actually pretty easy and very fast to get or make your own wood. And here I just cut the pieces I need, and yeah, I don't think I have to show all the cuts, only that I need one extra cut here on one of the pieces, and that's because I want to have an edge. I'm using oak, so it's fairly hard, and then I can protect the edge of the MDF plate in this way. And how this is going to look like, here you can see the back part, and this is the front, and here you can see I have this extra edge to protect the MDF. So I marked up for some holes, and then I drill them. Not much exciting going here, it's just drilling and preparing for some small screws so I can mount this. I put on some glue, mounted the screws, and then it was time to figure out where I want to place the router itself. I needed it to be placed so it was possible to come to this handle. This is the handle for the angling of the blade on the table saw. And this is where I decided to put it. And I marked it, of course, so I could figure out where it should be located. And then I just drilled a pilot hole. This pilot hole was more or less because I want to go to the back side. I did some measuring, I did some kind of drawing here trying to figure out where to put the router. So I had or used the router as a template. Here's a quick look, close up. And then I needed to figure out what was the measurement or the dimension between the center of the holes I want to use. This is the mounting holes. And after that I could draw the last lines here or mark the last up. So this was the 3 first holes. The last holes was a little offset, so I would wait a little later for that. And then I needed a hole in the middle for the router bit. I measured around 80 millimeters, but I had a cup drill here that was 76 or 3 inch, and I was thinking that should do it. So I just drill a hole. First on the one side and then the other side to get some perfect edges on both sides. And then I drilled the holes for the mounting screws and prepared here so the screws was sunken a little into the plate. The last hole was for my 30 millimeter socket wrench, and it was approximately 20 millimeter in diameter. Again, I just drilled a pilot hole, and in this case it is a very good thing to have a Fostner bit. I also drilled from both sides to get some great finished edges, and here you can see that it fits okay. And then I mount it, and I have an idea that this router will be permanent mounted, so I didn't want to make any kind of plate I could put in and out. And here is the finished result where you can see the socket wrench placed. It's a little loose, but I think it will be okay. Meanwhile, I draw the center support for the drill bits. I think 3 different holes in sizes should be okay. And again, I just use my 3D printer. I could of course also just have created that in wood, but it's kind of fun to do it on the 3D printer as well. So while I was printing, I was continuing, and now was time to mount the table. And in this case I just drilled some 6 millimeter holes in the plates, and then I just put in the plates and mounted the plates, and they should be flush with the bottom. And I used 4 in both sizes, 8 in total. So here I just tighten the bolts a little up. And because I'm using 12 millimeter MDF, it's not that stiff, so even the weight of the router itself could actually bend it a little. So I decided it was a good idea to have some reinforcement, and I had some pieces of wood here from the plank I did earlier. So I just prepared it, glued it up, and gave it a screw, and then it was time to see if it fit and if the top of the side table here was aligned with the rest of the table saw, and it was actually pretty okay. I think maybe a millimeter, something like that. And here you can see how it was mounted from beneath, and then a check to see if everything is aligned. and it looks actually pretty good, and I'm happy with this. So also I needed some start stop. I had this laying around, and here I just put in a strip to hold the start stop of the router itself. And it was time to try, see if everything works. Okay, perfect. So next step, I needed some M6mm threads in here for the center supports. I was thinking just having center supports without any kind of fastening, but I could imagine what was happening if they were going loose while standing and using the router. I don't think that will be great. So as you can see here, a couple of small M6 to keep it down. And then the printer has finished its job meanwhile, so I could try first put in a bit here, a router bit. And here you can see how easy it is just to raise the router, so that works pretty good. And then placing the router bit, and you can see I can actually use my left finger here to hold a kind of lock that is on the router. And then I just lower it a little. And then I found my center support here. And then I just put it in place. And the two small screws to keep it down. And I really hate these screws here. They are not the best. I think later I will probably change these to some Torx or cross or something like that. But for now they can do. Time to make a test on a piece of wood to see if it works. So it works nicely. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. So I think next step here will probably be all the dust you can see laying around. All this dust here, I think I want to collect it somehow, and maybe later I will create a kind of router fence where I can have my dust collection here. So I have to figure out how to do that later. And of course, when you are finished using the router, you can just lower it. It's normal procedure for this kind of lifter. And you can see here when it's down, I can of course use my fence to my table saw, no problem here. And to unmount the center support, it's also pretty easy. So yeah, you can just take it up here. So meanwhile here, yeah, my printer actually finished the job with all three. So here you have them, 3 different hole sizes. So thank you for watching and have a nice day.